When you think of huge stars, you do think, of course, of none bigger than perhaps, well, originally, depending on your generation, even today, somebody like Marilyn Monroe, or of course the stalwarts like Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, you know, the images that really captivated us for so many years on the big screen. Of course, there was one that really did captivate a generation for many decades, all thanks, of course, to her earthiness, her quips, the fact that she wouldn't take no for an answer, and many might say, of course, her own real invention. A lot of people felt that Mae West was an invention, but according to Raquel Welch, no, she wasn't an invention at all. She truly was like that on and off. Whether you believe Raquel or not, it's a fascinating story. But this particular story really focuses on the fact that Mae West literally did lose the opportunity to make far more money in Las Vegas, all because of one individual. As ever, let me explain. Morning, lovely to see you today. As ever, thank you so much for taking the time out to join me. We love our Hollywood stories, don't we? As I said, I've been lucky enough to meet people over the years that have literally worked with all of these legends. And when you sit down and you say, what were they really like? You know, what was that person like? I remember Tony Curtis telling me that George Raft, in fact, was a very quiet, subdued person. Nothing like the gangster role that he played on screen at all. Did like nothing really but played sort of board games and, you know, listening to the radio and tapping his feet. He was a brilliant dancer, let's not forget, so musicality was clearly in his blood. But it's interesting to note, isn't it, with somebody like the international sex bomb that was Mae West. You see, Mae West broke records. Forget all of the people that are going to Las Vegas today. The likes, of course, even before Elvis, you know, the likes today of people like Kylie Minogue, Celine Dion, and possibly Taylor Swift in the future. Mae did it first and did it better. Now, Mae decided when she first went to Las Vegas that she was simply going to do a revalued, sort of revisited look at her old act of Diamond Lil, and they weren't too impressed. Apparently Las Vegas bosses said, well, you know, we're not so sure. At this point, you know, Mae's in her early 60s. So, you know, they felt, is she still a big enough sex symbol? Mae knew better. And literally what she decided to do was replace the usual glamorous, glitzy Las Vegas showgirl dancers with this, a bunch of muscle men. That's right. Now, I was lucky enough to interview and meet Arnold Schwarzenegger, who ended up playing Mickey Hargitay on a TV movie starring Lonnie Anderson as the Jayne Mansfield story. And he was lucky enough to meet Mickey. And he said, look, you know, Mickey was a very clever guy, you know, just because he was sort of this beefcake, as they called them, in the 1950s. But here's where it gets really interesting, because during the run of that Las Vegas show, Mickey Hargitay became, well, romantically involved with another 50s blonde sex bomb, Jayne Mansfield. Now, Jayne Mansfield, as we know, starred in The Girl Can't Help It to great success, and she really sort of aped the Marilyn Monroe cachet, sort of cliche, as it were, of gentlemen prefer blondes. Now, where it gets interesting is this, you see, because literally during the run of Mae's show, Jayne would turn up and sit in the audience. Nothing wrong with that, apparently, but too many eyes were on Jayne Mansfield and not enough eyes on the stage when Mae made her entrance. Jayne said, you know, well, she was just there to support her boyfriend, Mickey. Now, Mickey was hauled in literally in front of Mae and basically said, you know, you either dump her or you're out the show. Now we know how that really worked, but Mae could not believe that the former Mr. Universe was in fact going to walk away from a Mae West show. So she put out that she fired him, but the reality was that he truly just left. Now here's where it gets really interesting, because the bosses of Las Vegas, the hotel that Mae was starring at, were doing everything in their power to say, no, you know, don't do this, Mae, you know, she's good for business. And they said every time Jayne Mansfield attended a performance of the Mae West show, it got talked about on the strip. And of course, you know, the rooms went up, the booze sales went up, everything literally went up. But Mae said, no. I'm the only blonde that they should be looking at on the stage. I'm surrounded by some of the most attractive men on the planet, former Mr. Universes. Who cares about looking at some wannabe that's imitating me and who's been a star for the last 30 years? She had a point. Now, apparently, when they contacted Jayne and said, could she stay away, she very sweetly said that she'd like to and she'd try to, but she simply wanted to support her man, Mickey Hargitay, and that she didn't want to offend anybody, particularly older ladies. Ooh. And literally that statement went out, and that night, according to Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mickey Hargitay lost his place on the lineup of the Las Vegas show of the Mae West Spectacular. That is the true story of how May literally walked away from an advance of thousands of pounds because the Las Vegas bosses really thought, we'll give you the extra money if you allow Jane to sit there. She wasn't having any of it. And when you think about it, Mae West truly was a woman of her own. You agree? Neil Sean in the very heart of London.